So welcome to the MIDC's training on using our new grant management system for quarterly reporting. I'm Marla McCowan. If you don't know me, I'm the Deputy Director and Training Director with the MIDC, and I'm going to be guiding you through these topics on reporting along with our Grant Director, Rebecca Mack, and our Research Director, Jonah Siegel. This is the first time we're using EGrAMS for reporting purposes. So please just be patient with us. I promise we're going to be patient with you. We think overall that using EGrAMS has been a huge improvement in the way that we process compliance plans and payments. And we know that having a single place to submit all of the reporting, the required reporting is also really extremely convenient for you as well. So if you aren't familiar, if it's been a little while, this is our EGrAMS site. You can use the link at the bottom of the slide to access, or you can go through our website address as well to access our EGrAMS program. Make sure you're using the MIDC's EGrAMS page. I just want to emphasize this for a second. Take a look here. If you see where the stars are, it's really common for people, I don't know why, but it is really common for people to Google Michigan and EGrAMS and land on DHHS's EGrAMS site. And so that's going to be incorrect. You're not going to be able to log in or have any user credentials, and then we get the calls. So just take a second before you give us a call and make sure that you're on the MIDC site. And if not, use this link again. You know you're in the right place if you see our logo up in the top left corner, or if you see MIDC in the web address. So our website here, if you can't remember, where you're supposed to go, you can always go to our website, michiganidc.gov, on our grants page. We have EGrAMS linked there, along with quite a few other resources to help with all of the reporting that's required. In addition to the link to EGrAMS, as well as this tutorial will be posted as well later this week. I encourage you to review the MIDC's grant manual, which you can also find on our grants page. And a few times during this session, we're going to talk about previously recorded tutorials. We have a YouTube page, and this is where we put a roundup of all of these sessions that we do, including this session. We're going to post that there on our YouTube channel later. So our YouTube page is linked on our website as well. Please also generally be familiar with your grant contract. You can review the contract at any time in EGrAMS. The due dates for reporting, as well as all of the other requirements, are listed in the contract itself. If you're new to the MIDC's EGrAMS program, you're going to need to create a user profile. You can do this right on the site. It doesn't require any approval from us or anything on that end. Just go ahead and set up the user profile using this link on the EGrAMS page. It's pretty easy to do, but if you want, there's a pretty short step-by-step tutorial on our YouTube page. It says EGrAMS user profile. It's fairly easy to navigate through. Just take a few minutes and set that up. And if you need any help, please feel free to contact us. We are here to help, especially if you're new to EGrAMS. We might need to work after you set up your user profile. We might need to work kind of on the back end to make sure that your credentials are connected to the funding unit that you're working in. Please don't hesitate to call anytime. We know that there are a lot of people who are new to working in funding units with your Indigent Defense Delivery Program. If you're a new project director or primary contact, this is also pretty common too. I put this bullet point here. If you're submitting reports for multiple funding units, we're finding that there are some managed assigned council administrators that are working for a couple of different funding units. You need to request, it's a specific permission called multi-agency user. And that is something that we have to help you with. So after you set up your initial user profile, give us a call. We can also help. There is a way to reset your password, like if you're a returning user and you're trying to access a site, but you do need to know what your username is. So if you don't remember your username, you can give us a call and we can help you with that. We can't reset your password for you, but we can give you your username and probably help with some other access as well. If you need any assistance at any time, this is my cell phone number and this is my email address. Please, please, please don't hesitate to call. So, once you're all set up, or if you're a returning user, log in with your credentials to get started here with the reporting. You're going to go to the MIDC's EGrAMS page and go to the login there. This is where here, like I mentioned just a second ago, if you know your username, but you forgot your password, you can reset that yourself. It's a pretty quick process, and you can do that yourself, and you don't need any sort of approval or anything from us. Hopefully when you set up your user profile, there were some security questions that you set up. Hopefully you remember what those answers are. It's usually pretty easy. We can help with that stuff too, but you do need to know your username to get the link to reset your password, and then just click this forgot password button. If you're having any trouble, again, please just feel free to call. Once you're logged in, this is going to be your homepage. This is your welcome page. If it doesn't look familiar to you, this is our basic landing page once you're logged into the EGrAMS system. To get started with reporting, what you're going to do is there's a menu at the top, sort of a menu ribbon there at the top. One of the menu options is reporting. This is called, when you hover over it, it's called a dynamic menu, which means it's hard to grab a screenshot of it. So I just took a picture of it here. You see, once you hover over the reporting, you have a few options. The first one there is progress reports. So select progress reports and you'll be able to get started. On this progress reports tab, you're going to use this lookup menu. Do you see these little three dots? I know it's probably hard to see. I outlined it here with a red rectangle. We call this the lookup button. I'll use that term a couple of other times. Use the lookup button to select the program that you're reporting for. So right now there's only the one. In the future, in future years, we're going to have other programs that you might be reporting on or find yourself reporting on. But for right now, there's only one. So it's fairly easy to figure this out. Click that button and you're ready to go. For the report itself, again, you can use on this line for the report, again, you can use this lookup menu to find and display all of the reports that are available for you to choose, or you can just hit find and it will display a list for you of all the reports that are available. So I have a quick note here. Once you're logged in and you either, choose the report and select everything that's an option to you, or hit find to see the list displayed. I just want to make sure that everyone can see this here. There are three options. There's an attorney list, a financial status report, and a quarterly program report. If all three of those are not available to you, or if you try to click on any of those and it gives you a message that you're not authorized to submit this report, please give us a call. It might be that you were maybe added on later to the system as somebody who would be providing the reporting, or something else might have happened during the contracting process. We had a couple of people where they were the project director, but they were also going to be the person signing the contract. So we had to change them from project director to authorizing official. We need to change you back to project director so that you could submit these reports. So just give us a call. We can work to connect you to the correct reports for your system. Okay, I'm going to blow this up a little bit here. You can see where we're starting here. I highlighted here the pending reports. You know that it's pending, either if you're using the radial dial here to click pending, or there's a P after any of these reports that indicates pending. These are the reports I'm talking about here. I just blew this up a little bit. There's an attorney list, a financial status report, and the quarterly program report. We're going to go in order here as they're displayed alphabetically. You can start with any of the reports. That's sort of a nice thing also about EGrAMS. You can start it, save it, and return at any time, pick up where you left off. That's actually a really nice feature of EGrAMS. For purposes of this demonstration though, I'm just going to start at the top. So we're going to click on attorney list to get started. The attorney list is a required component of reporting, and it consists, it's just this single page. The first thing that we're going to ask you to do is to please confirm that all the attorneys providing services or receiving payments during the reporting period are listed here. Deborah Mitchell, our amazing training analyst, has been working really, really hard to try to keep these updated. The way that she does that is she worked off of, you may remember before, if you were working through the compliance plan, she was working from those quarterly program reports that were submitted previously. Deborah went through at the end of October through November and December and went through and tried to make sure that everybody that was listed there is also in your report. But we know that rosters change all the time. So it might be that for whatever reason, somebody is not accepting assignments or payments anymore in your system, or you want to add somebody too. So we know that these changes happen often. We tried the best that we can. It should be a complete report. To add an attorney, all you have to do is just type their name and their P number without the P and hit the save button. If you want to delete an attorney, maybe they, moved away, or they retired or whatever, they're not accepting assignments or payments in your system anymore, you're going to use that red X all the way over to the far right. Click the X and then save as well. That's how it will delete a line for you. So I just want to make one quick note here. This came up earlier in the session. When you add people, you're adding them to the end of the list, and the list does not automatically re-alphabetize. So people are not necessarily going to be displayed in alphabetical order. At this time, it is not possible to sort people alphabetically in this list. I do have a note that I'm going to reach out to our developer to see if we can make that change for future reporting. But for right now, the attorneys are going to be displayed probably alphabetically at first, because we did enter them initially alphabetically, but then if anyone's been added, you're just going to have to check to the end of the list. We can help. There's a couple of things that we can do here if you're trying to, if you have a very lengthy list and you want to see it displayed alphabetically. You can either go to your compliance plan that you submitted and generate a report there, or you can reach out to me or Deborah. Deborah can create an Excel spreadsheet pretty quickly. Your regional managers can create an attorney list as well for your system very, very quickly. We have that reporting feature. And so, or you can also manually reorder them too, which would involve, some deleting probably and just manually re-entering if necessary. We're here to help. Again, if there's anything that we can do, especially for people with lengthy lists, just let us know what we can do. And like I said, we do know that this would be helpful to be able to sort the list in the future. I have made a note for our developer. For every attorney here who is accepting assignments during the reporting period, so you see the reporting period up to the left, you see that's displayed there. Please include the number of assignments that they received during the reporting period, as well as the payments received during the reporting period. We do want this to be a complete list of attorneys. Okay, so even if you have, if you have a public defender office, as well as a roster of attorneys sort of on contract or something, we need everybody, including the attorneys that work in the public defender office. The main reason here is because we use this to track compliance with standard 1, the continuing legal education requirement. So if you're public defenders are missing from the list, and we're going to do some audits of public defender offices, we're going to follow up and ask that they be added to complete the reporting requirements. For every attorney listed, there needs to be a corresponding assignment and payment. So if 0 is the answer, you need to enter 0 here. If you don't have anything listed and there is an attorney on that line and you don't have their number of assignments or their payments listed, you will get an error message. You're going to need to make sure that you fill that out completely, indicate with a 0, add people if necessary, delete people if necessary, and then work through the report and complete it. After you've filled it out completely, I just want to say here, I just want to take a moment here to say, for all of these slides, I grabbed screenshots from our testing site, our this is not an actual, I want to say thank you to Huron County, Diana Kessler, a very generous, as well as I grabbed some screenshots from other places too. Thank you. These are not actual submissions and do not accurately reflect, say, for example, on this slide, the number of assignments or payments to these particular attorneys. I was just using it for the tester demonstration site here. So please don't read anything into that. It was just a sample for this training session. After this is completed with the number of assignments and the payments for the reporting period, click on Save and then Validate to ensure that there are no errors. If you left any of the number of assignments or payments blank, you will get an error and you will not be able to validate and submit this report. But assuming everything is completed correctly, it will indicate that there are no errors. You can acknowledge that and then click Close to move on to the rest of the reporting. You can see here the attorney report. It's going to be ready to submit if you want. If you're ready to submit it, you can see that there's a little box there that eventually you will check and click OK if you would like to submit. We're not going to submit any of these right now for purposes of the demonstration. We're going to move through and show you how to submit all of these reports at the end. I'm going to turn this over to our grants director, Rebecca Mack, to walk you through the financial components of the reporting. This includes the financial status report, as well as Rebecca's going to talk about budget adjustments too, which is an optional request you can make during the reporting period. Rebecca?
Thanks, Marla. Welcome to EGrAMS Financial Reporting. To go back a little bit to what Marla had covered at the beginning of the session, in the profile, we are looking for you to have somebody designated as the financial officer. The project director, the financial officer, and the authorizing official all have rights to be able to enter the financial status report. But I do think in many cases, it makes sense for a funding unit employee to be able to submit or be at the ready to be involved for the submission because of the not only the sensitivity of the information. A lot of our project directors are contractors, and so it's difficult for them to understand some of the financial operations, but also the documentation that's required to upload at any of the line items that you're reporting expenditures for. So for housekeeping, once we have somebody that's designated as a financial officer that can go through and submit this, you would go to the tab for progress reports, and then you would see that you would have this available to you. And then you would have the financial status report that you would click on, and you would come to this screen. So you'll notice that the status at the top, it changes from pending on the first page, it goes into work in progress. At any point in time during the entering of this information, you can save. So if you're going to get interrupted with a phone call, and we'll mention this a little bit later as well, that there's 15 minutes, that's a timeout on the top right of the screen. So just being sensitive to that, and maybe the learning curve for entering this for the first couple of times and saving, and that it will restart the clock again at 15 minutes. So this is the high level of your cost analysis that was approved by the MIDC. Again, for the first time, when you entered your applications in April and we moved through our processes throughout the summer for approval of the plans and the cost analysis. So now we're going live with our first quarterly reporting of the financial information. So depending on what your cost analysis looks like, you'll be entering either personnel information related to personnel fringe, contract attorneys, experts, investigators. If you've been to a training, you've got some potential for travel vouchers, registrations, those types of things. So you're going to be entering the amount of the expenditure and knowing that for each one of the lines that you are entering an expenditure, there's a paperclip at the end of the line that's requiring documentation. This does not change from what we've done for the last 3 grant years, where personnel has been entered. Then we're looking for payroll information to validate pay rates, those types of things to correspond to what was approved in the cost analysis. As well, contract attorneys, we asked for a list of the attorneys that were paid. We're again not requiring invoices in this section, but we're looking for the list of the contract attorneys that will match to by P number what they were paid, and will roll up to the total that you're reporting expenditures to. The example that Marla's blown up here on the screen is related to a $115 charge related to, looks like possibly a registration or a hotel based on the amount. And what you will see is that the last 2 columns are identifying what was approved in this budget at $2,676.24. And based on reporting the $115, it lowers the balance by that $115. So this appears on the screen where you're entering this information. You've got the totals at the bottom that tie out to with the budget and the balances. The other piece of information that's new here that's really helpful to project directors and planners in your program is where it allows you to be able to see your percentage spending as you move through reporting this first quarter and subsequent quarters of reports. So when you go to do the paperclip to add the document, this is the process where it allows you to go out and browse to collect that document and add it as the support. Just for everybody's information, there is no restrictions on the type of document that can be added, nor in the size of the document. You know, and we've been doing this for 3 years now, along with you, and I know there's been some transitions, but you know, we're looking for the documentation that's going to substantiate all the expenses are claimed. Payroll is complete to tie out to who is in your system that's being paid for this quarter. An invoice for purchase of computers, we're going to look for that while you're entering supplies, those types of things. When this is submitted, it leaves this pending to the work in process stage to a submitted stage by you. Just know that there is an acceptance or approval stage by the MIDC at that point as well. So when these are not complete in terms of documentation, they can be sent back to you in a correcting phase with notes. Our budget analyst or grant analyst, Kia Brown, will be the primary on that, and you will be getting an email back from her through EGrAMS that'll identify what we're looking for or what potentially could be missing. So in this case, this has been submitted by Huron County, saved successfully, and then we're going to go through the validation stage as well. And the validation stage says that it's been saved, but we're validating to say that it's been saved with no errors, which is also something you see in other aspects of EGrAMS as well, including when you entered your application.
Just a quick note here. I know you already mentioned this, Rebecca, but I just wanted to, I think we wanted to point out to people that they can see this is going to take a while for on some systems. It's going to take them a while to enter all this information. So if they are looking at every page, as you mentioned, has a 15-minute time limit. If they see that they're starting to wind down on their time, you can hit save and buy yourself a few more minutes here to keep going.
Thanks, Marla. That is worth repeating at least a few times because it will happen. That we're so fixated on what we're reporting and making sure that we're getting it right, or maybe an error message pops up that's troublesome, but always looking at the timeout. The 15 minutes was not anything that we could extend with the vendor for our grant management system here. We tried, but just again, it's a reminder to keep saving as you move throughout. And this is probably, like the program report, one of the most time-consuming pieces, and at least for the first few times that you're reporting, it's just going to take a minute for you to do the workaround and feel comfortable with what you're reporting and then appending as well. So once we have entered the expenses, so in this case, this system entered $126,300 for contract attorney expenses. Again, you go to the budget, you go to the balance, you can see that the balance has been adjusted. It identifies the spending at 20% based on this reporting for the quarter. You're hitting save. And then the second tab that's related to this is the source of funds. So the source of funds for everybody is your local share, and the state grant comes in as funding that's in excess of the local share. So in this case, this report for $126,300 in contract attorney expenses only from the County of Huron exceeded what their local share was. So the system automatically pre-populates this and it goes to the local share first. And then what was over the local share pointed to the state grant of $45,911.17. And again, the last columns identify what the budgets were, what the balances are, and the percentage of spending. So at this juncture, this report spends down all of the local share. It's got nearly 8% of the state grant contribution. And for this quarter, Huron County has spent 19.26% of their total budget for the grant year. So we've had a process, again, to this point, everything has been manual, that you're submitting the FSRs, submitting the documentation, and then if needed, you have the ability to do a budget adjustment. In our EGrAMS system, that terminology has changed to a line item transfer, and I'll explain how you can go through to do that. So when you enter the FSR, you are held to the amounts that are in each of the categories for your budget, except per our contract rules, you can exceed those lines by up to 5%. without needing a line item transfer. And the line item transfer is a process that you are taking money from one line item to increase funding to a second line item based on a need or unanticipated expenditure that you're looking for the MIDC to approve mid-grant year. And that process up until this point has gone through the regional manager, and then it goes to myself for approval. That will continue to be the process here as well. So to get to the line item transfer option, you go to the project director screen. You can see that line item transfer is one of the options. And it will take you to this screen. So what you are looking to do is to add a request for a line item transfer. So in this case, Eaton County is looking to add a line item transfer that they would need to go down to the reason box and populate that box with the amount of money that they're looking to transfer, the line item from, the line item to, and the why. So all of the things that would have been on the original form that we were looking for the story of why you needed to transfer funds. This only allows you to move line items between the total grant that's approved. This is not a process that you are allowed to increase your grant. So once you've populated this reason box, then you hit submit. And it appears in a pending status. And then from this point, you would enter the grant application itself and then go to the two lines that you were looking to add and decrease and do that there. So if you're looking to take $10,000 from contract attorneys and increase what's available to you for your budget for experts, you would do that. You would reduce a $250,000 budget for contract attorneys to 240 and a $50,000 budget for experts to 60. So they match, and then when you save at that point, then you should not have an error with that. If they weren't adjusted by the same amount, you would run into an error. And then after you've amended that cost analysis for that request, again, that will go through to the regional manager, where the regional manager may contact you and ask further questions depending on what you're requesting, and then pass along that information to me at the second level of approval. Once I approve it, the next time that you go into your cost analysis, you'll see that that change has been made.
Thanks, Rebecca. The next topic we're going to move into is the quarterly program reports. But before we do that, I'm just wondering if there are any questions that we should address before moving on.
I don't see anything in the chat.
Okay, great. All right. Thanks, Rebecca. That was super helpful and very informative. I really appreciate that. I'm sure everybody does too. This is a new process for us, not significantly different in terms of the substance, but the form for sure. And the way that it's going to get entered. But I think that it's going to be a nice streamlined process. And I'm looking forward to seeing how this moves along. So also the quarterly program report. Again, this is all being entered in EGrAMS. So this is new in terms of where the information is being submitted, but not necessarily the information itself. I'm going to have Jonah Siegel. Jonah, are you there? Talk through the quarterly program reporting requirements.
Yep, I'm here. Thanks, Marla.
Sure.
Okay, hi, everyone. So in terms of the quarterly program reports, you will find the place to submit the program reports in the same location as the attorney list and the financial status report. So to start working specifically on the program report, you will just click where it says QPR. Once it opens, you'll see that most of the basic information should already be pre-populated. So that includes the reporting period, your region, and contact information, etc. If anything is incorrect or outdated, you can re-enter the information right on the screen at that point. On this first page, as you scroll down, you'll also check all of the boxes designating the courts for which you'll be reporting. You have to click each court that you're reporting for here, otherwise the appropriate questions will not open up on the next page. After your information is finalized on this page, like every page, you should click the Save button with the arrow which will both save and move you to the next page. You can see here that we've checked both relevant courts for Huron County. Great. Once you move to the next page, your court-specific tabs will open up. So you can see and move between the tabs on the top. The Circuit, District, Municipal button will be pre-selected for you based on the specific court that corresponds to the tab on the top. You'll then scroll down and answer the first several questions, which relate to the number of new filings, the number of those cases that go to appointed counsel, and the person responsible for making assignments and scheduling the docket. For the questions about the number of new filings and the number of assignments, a quick reminder that the second answer there should be a subset of the first answer. So you have the total number of new filings that reporting period, and then of that number, of those filings, the total number that were handled at any point post-arraignment by indigent defense counsel. So the second number there cannot be larger than the first because it is necessarily a subset, though it could be the same. Also on this page regarding P numbers, there will be an error if you leave the P number field blank. So if the person in question is not an attorney, please just enter 5 zeros into there, and then we will know that that person does not have a P number. Remember that at least one of the two people listed there does have to be a licensed attorney in good standing with the State Bar of Michigan. As you scroll further down, you'll see questions related to Standard 5 regarding independence and assignments, and then also questions related to Standard 3, experts and investigators. At the very bottom of the page, you'll see the beginning of our Standard 4 questions on arraignments, which we'll see more of on the next slide right here. So these are the remainder of the questions on arraignments, as well as questions about cases in which arraignments did not occur. When you see questions that are grayed out, that means that those questions do not apply to the selected court on that tab. So for instance, there are some questions that don't apply to circuit court. And so if you're feeling frustrated trying to click in a button that's grayed out, it's just because it doesn't apply to your court and you can keep moving on. At the bottom of this page is a reminder that all of the above questions need to be answered for every single court for which you're reporting, and that you can only access each court by ensuring that you've checked those relevant boxes on the very first page that we talked about in the beginning. As you move on to reporting for district courts, you'll see many of those same questions. Continue answering and just keep remembering to click the save with the arrow button each time you're ready to move to a new page. When you get to the arraignment questions, just a quick reminder of what each of these categories mean. So the first one reads, how many assignments were conducted in this court during the reporting period total? And then it breaks that total number down. So of those, how many were conducted by retained counsel? How many were conducted by appointed counsel? How many were conducted in pro per? And how many were conducted where counsel was absent? And then a fifth category, which is kind of a catch-all category, anything that did not fall into one of the above categories. In most courts, all of your arraignments should fall into those first 4 categories, but I know that there are some courts that do things a little differently, and so you may need that extra category to, to complete the total. All of those boxes should add up to the very top box. So here you can see that they add up to 215, and then you can see that they're broken down. Once you complete all the tabs on the report, you'll click the validate button to check for any errors. You may find errors related to questions that you missed or categories that should add up, so data points that should add up but do not. So at that point, you would just go back and correct those errors. Once everything is complete, you're going to go back to your reporting homepage where you can submit your reports. Once you get back there, make sure to check the boxes on the right side for each report you're attempting to submit. So in our session this morning, there were questions about if you can submit these reports individually, and the answer is yes. Whichever boxes you have checked here under submit, that's all that will get submitted at that time. So it is possible to do the FSR and then to come back another time and do the quarterly program report, et cetera, or have 2 different people doing those. Once you have a, so you'll click the boxes there, you will check OK. And then once everything is completed, you will see that up on the top, or kind of in the middle here, the button has status shifted to submitted. And then also the dates will now be filled in under submitted date. So you'll be able to see when that was actually submitted. And then Marla, is this where the additional screen or slide is added? Okay, so we also had questions this morning about creating a PDF to save or print or share. So you can also do that in each part of the system. This particular part is from, it looks like the FSRs, but that PDF button that you see down at the bottom, you should also see for the quarterly program report. Before I turn it back,
well. Yeah.
and the attorney list, yep, thank you. Before I turn it back over to Marla, I just want to briefly review the 3 top issues that would cause us to reject a quarterly program report, even if the system has in fact accepted it. So one reason would be fields that are missing, or say not applicable or unknown, etc. Everything does need to be filled in. If in fact something is not applicable to your court, then of course we would want you to indicate that, but that's very rarely the case. So you know, that information does need to be filled in. Another reason is fields that don't add up properly. So for example, you know, the new filings or the arraignments that we talked about, the arraignments would be an issue of adding up. The new filings would be an example of, if that second number is larger than that first number, it tells me that that cannot possibly be a subset. And then finally, fields that look like they're egregious errors. These are usually typos or sometimes just confusion. So something like a court had 100 filings in the quarter, but they had 1,500 cases with an expert. Something like that would flag our attention, and we would want a little bit more information. So I will leave it at that. If you have any questions, I'm happy to answer them in the chat or circle back at the end.
Thanks, Jonah. That was really helpful. Anyone have any questions before I move on?
We have a question that goes back to the FSRs, wanting to know if we're only using line item transfer function if we are exceeding the 5%.
Thanks, Susan. Yes, Peter, I see your message. You can do a line item transfer at any amount, but just saying that the necessity and the requirement is clearly if it exceeds 5% in the category. If you try to enter your FSR, it will not accept it. It'll say that there's an error message. So if you're nearing some budget category ceilings, I would take a look sooner rather than later. If you're looking to exceed, say a category that you have like supplies or something like that, that you might not know that you're nearing the cap and you have another need for additional supplies or a computer or something like that. But yeah, so you can see that there's language in our contract related to the 5% cap for up to without authorization or in excess that you need the authorization through this line item transfer process. Hopefully that answers your question, Pete.
Just a couple more topics here and just a few more minutes really. So if there's anything else, please feel free to stop us. This last part here does not apply to everybody, but we do have enough people that fall into the category of either having a regional model or they're a managed assigned council administrator reporting for multiple funding units that we thought it was worth taking just a couple of minutes here to help you navigate through the reporting process. So the first one here is a regional model. I'm using, I'm logged in here as Ann Harris, our friend from Houghton County. This Houghton County works in, there's a tri-county public defender office there that covers Baraga, Houghton, and Keweenaw counties. So in this instance, when Ann goes in and submits her reporting, she is going to have all of her options here. This is because there was a single compliance plan submitted for all of these funding units. We call this a regional model, and it's just going to be all displayed neatly for Ann here. As she's reporting, she can select all of the counties and report just in the same spot rather than going and logging back in multiple times. Since it was a single compliance plan and single cost analysis, she can do that here. The one thing that I just wanted to make note of here, it's a little bit confusing, hopefully not to the people who work within these systems, but every location of court is going to be tied to the fiduciary county. So here, Houghton is listed as the primary, the fiduciary, and then it's broken up by court throughout the rest of the report. Once this opens, if you have a regional model and you are reporting on for multiple locations of court or multiple funding units in a single report here, just like the space, you will see it's going to look just the same way as when Jonah was talking through the circuit and district court. You're just going to have that many more tabs across the top. So you'll get the reminder that you need to complete for every single court location that you selected and walk through every one of the tabs. So in this instance here, there are going to be 6 tabs at the top as opposed to the 2 tabs that might just commonly pop up for the circuit and district court locations. Anyone have any questions about that? There was a brief question about that. I think it's one of those things where once you log in and click these boxes, it'll be a little bit easier to understand. And if not, please just feel free to reach out. The regional model is sort of the easiest way because it is still one-stop shopping for the reporter. A little bit trickier here is, again, I'm using the term multi-agency users. We talked about this at the beginning of the session. This is when there's one person who is most often, this is a managed assigned council administrator who works for multiple funding units and is responsible for the reporting in multiple funding units, but they all have their own individual compliance plans and individual cost analyses that were approved by the commission. Multi-agency users have a couple of extra steps to take. So once they're logged in here, multi-agency users will look up the compliance plan for the grant program, but then separately need to specify the agency or the funding unit that they're reporting for. I'm logged in here as Paul Jarbo, our friend from Grand Traverse County. Paul has a couple of systems that he works in. So if it defaults to Grand Traverse in this model here, but if he wants to work on Antrim County, he'll need to select that and then hit find, and it'll bring up the system, the Antrim County system for him to report on. So it's going to be that way. Like, for example, maybe in mid-Michigan, there are going to be 8 funding units that one managed assigned council administrator might be reporting on. There are several third-class funding units in Wayne and Macomb and Oakland counties where there are multiple. There's one managed assigned council administrator reporting for multiple funding units. They will all have the same setup here where they have to actually use that lookup button and select the funding unit that they want to report on and then move through and then finalize the reports, submit, close that out, and then go back through these steps and look up the next one to report on. Any questions there? I know, again, that doesn't apply to everybody. That just applies if you report for multiple systems as a multi-agency user, or again, the regional model. The look is a little bit different. You're going to have several tabs to be working through in a single report. We're going to make these slides available for everybody if you're interested. I'm going to turn my camera back on.
Marla, there are some questions in the chat right now that I think maybe have been partially resolved, but not fully resolved. And I just want to make sure we're understanding Lisa's question here.
Great. We've got several minutes left. No problem. And I just want to say, before I forget, using the same sign up genius that people use to sign up for today's sessions, we have office hours next week. We have several office hours scheduled on I think Tuesday, Wednesday, and Thursday next week where you can drop in. We're going to it's just my Zoom room where I'm just going to open it up. You can drop in anytime and we can help you with the actual submission of your reports if that's helpful to you. If those times don't work for you, those drop-in office hours type of setup, if that doesn't work for you, just reach out to your regional managers or me anytime. We're happy to help you, whatever is convenient for you. People liked those office hours last time. That's why we wanted to do it again. Okay, I don't have my chat displayed. Can somebody read the question while I pull it up?
Marla, I think you've got the, we just had a question on the regional office of how we would add the, who would we add? And I think we've got that resolved.
Okay, great. Yeah, we've had a couple of people today reach out after this morning session, so hopefully we've got everybody. But if you, again, once you log in, if you don't see the reporting that you are expecting to submit, just reach out to us. It might be something that we can connect again on the back end to make sure that your user credentials are connected to the funding unit that you're supposed to be reporting on, or funding units, as the case may be. Anything else? We're going to make this recording available on our YouTube page. We'll update our grants page. We'll also have the slides to go along with this. Hopefully it's pretty decent step-by-step instruction. If there's anything else that you can think of, please don't hesitate to reach out and let us know how we can help. Thanks for joining today. Before I log off, am I missing anything in the chat? Good to go? All right, thanks everyone for taking the time to join. Have a good afternoon.